Hello everyone and welcome. Today's tutorial we're going to be doing the Flatty Dog, and for this tutorial I've already pre-cut my fabric. I've got my 8x12 hoop ready to go. I've got my tearaway stabilizer ready, and I've already pre-cut my wadding. When you purchase this design, you've also received a PDF file with the instructions for putting the Flatty Dog together. You will find a chart near the top that tells you exactly how many pieces of fabric and in what size you'll need to cut for whatever particular hoop you're going to be using. And that's how I've got these already pre-cut out. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces ready to go, I am going to hoop a piece of tearaway stabilizer. I'm going to hoop it into my machine, and I'm going to upload the first of 3 designs, which is the dog ears. We're going to be doing those first. Now for that one, you're going to do the first stitch on top, which is the placement stitch on top of your tearaway stabilizer. And then you're going to take your first 2 pieces of fabric and your first piece of large wadding, and you're going to be placing them on top of the placement stitch. And then your last step in that first of 3 designs is going to be the tack down stitch. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that real quick, but then I'll show you exactly what I mean about stacking them. Okay, so this is what I have. Here is my piece of tearaway stabilizer at the bottom. Here is your largest piece of wadding that you should have cut out. That's going to be placed down over the placement stitches first. And then you're going to take your 2 largest pieces of fabric that you've chosen for the ears. You're going to sandwich them together, and you're going to place them on top of the wadding. So that way you're going to completely cover your placement stitch. And then your next stitch is going to be the tack down stitch, which you can see I've already done here on both sides. And from here, what you're going to want to do is remove everything completely from the hoop. You're going to trim away your fabric, take away your tearaway stabilizer, and then you're going to flip the ears right side out. So one more time, just in case, you're going to hoop your stabilizer only with your hoop into your machine. You're going to do the first stitch, which is the placement stitch, and it looks just like this. Over the placement stitch, you're going to do your piece of wadding first. And then you're going to put your 2 pieces of fabric right sides together on top of the wadding, making sure that you're completely covering your placement stitch. And then you're going to do the next stitch, which is your tack down stitch for the ears. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this from my hoop. I'm going to do all the trimming, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have a new piece of tearaway stabilizer hooped, and I'm ready for my next piece of stitching, and that's going to be the arms and the legs. And I've already have that uploaded into my embroidery machine, but first let me show you. These are the ears that came out of my last hoop, and as you can see, they came out quite well, and they're ready to go for the next part of the step. So I'm going to put these off to the side because I'm done with them. And one thing that actually helps me, I don't know if it might help you, but when it comes to turning some of these smaller pieces right side out, I actually use a chopstick, and that actually helps me to push the fabric through a little bit more to be able to help me instead of, you know, using my fingers to try to pinch it through. But yeah, if that in any way helps you, I am really glad. So let's get on to our next step, and that's doing our placement stitch for the arms and the legs. Okay, so I have my placement stitches done for the arms and the legs. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your next piece of wadding and you're going to do exactly like the dog ears. You're going to completely cover your placement stitches, and then you're going to take your pieces of fabric, 2 of them that you've pre-cut for the arms and legs, and you're going to sandwich them together just like the ears. You're going to do right sides together, and then you're going to place that right on top of your piece of wadding. And then now you're ready to do your tack down stitch for your arms and legs. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete. You've got your arms and your legs. So what we're going to do now is we're going to completely remove this from the hoop. You're going to take away all the stabilizer. You're going to cut around each individual piece, and then you're going to turn them right side out, just like we did the dog ears. And then you're going to hoop another piece of tearaway stabilizer, and we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, so here we have it. I have hooped another piece of stabilizer and it's ready to go for the next step, which would be your last design, and that is the head and the body of the Flatty dog. So here are the arms and legs turned right side out, and they're ready to go for when it's time to attach them. So I'm going to put these off to the side, and we're going to start with our next design, which is the placement stitch for the dog. Okay, so here we have the placement stitch that goes around the entire body. I went ahead and did the next stitch as well because that one would also be going on the stabilizer, and that is the placement stitch that went completely around the head. So if you just did the body, you won't have this line right here. So what you need to do is do the next stitch, which is a placement stitch as well, and that's for the head. Because from here you're going to be hooping your face fabric, which is fabric piece E, and I've chosen this fabric right here. And you're going to completely put this, make sure the lines are covered. Okay, let me zoom in for you. You want to make sure on this that the stitch is completely covered on all sides and the head is completely covered. And then it's going to do a tack down stitch. Okay, the tack down stitch is complete, and what you're going to do next, oh, and for the face, make sure that you did place your fabric right side down. So for your next piece, you're going to grab fabric F, which is the body piece, and you're going to also turn it right side down. And if you chose a pattern like I did for mine, which the body is the body of the robots go down, you want to make sure you flip it the right way, which I have the robots going down now, so that way when the next step comes and I flip it down, the robots will be right side up. So what you're going to want to do is place your body piece of fabric right over your face fabric, making sure that the fabric is right side down, and your next stitch is going to be a tack down stitch to secure your body fabric to the hoop. Okay, so the tack down stitch was complete. So what you're going to do now is you're going to grab your body piece of fabric and carefully bring it down, and it's going to go over the body just like this. And then from there, it's going to do a tack down stitch, and it's going to secure this piece of fabric to your hoop. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete of the body, and I went ahead and did the next placement stitch, and it's going to be right up towards the head, and that's for your next piece of fabric that's labeled fabric F, which you've chosen for a piece on the head. And what you're going to do is you're going to place it over the face, but instead of doing face down of your fabric, you're going to do it right side up, because this is the actual face you were doing. So everything on the face right now, you want it to be visible and what it's going to look like. So you want to put it over the face, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the tack down stitch, which is the next step for this piece of fabric, and I'll be right back. Okay, the tack down stitch is done, and for the next portion, you're going to want to either take it off the hoop, or if you can do it in the hoop, but you want a pair of applique scissors, and you're going to want to remove only part of the fabric from the headpiece right here. You're going to start here at this bottom corner, and you're going to remove all the fabric all the way to the top of the head. I'll show you again. You're going to remove the fabric from here all the way up to the top. I'll go ahead and remove this fabric, and then I'll show you what I did. Okay, as you can see, I only removed the fabric from this front portion of the dog because the next stitch is going to be a satin finishing stitch, which is only going to go right over this line. That's why you needed a pair of applique scissors, or if you can get in close with a regular pair of scissors, because you want to get really close in order for you to get that extra fabric away from the stitching, because the satin stitch is going to completely cover that line. So I'm going to go ahead and do the satin stitch, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the satin stitch is complete around the dog face. So the next couple of stitches I'm going to go ahead and move forward and do, because it's going to be the eyes and the nose part. And for the nose, I'm going to change the color out to a red, but for the eyes, I'm going to keep black. But those are your next couple of stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and get those done, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, our dog's starting to take shape. We've got the eyes and the nose, and I went ahead and did the next step in the stitching process, which is your tack down stitch. I did it in red, so hopefully you can see it. It's for the arms and the legs. So you're going to take your arms and legs, and you're going to take your tape, and you're going to place them over the placement stitches. These two arms are going to be in like that, and then the two legs are going to be at the bottom there. So what you're going to want to do is kind of tape them in place so that way they don't move, because your next stitch is going to tack these arms and legs to your doll. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete. As you can see, I did it right over the tape, which is fine because painter's tape is very forgiving when it comes to using it with your stitches. It comes right off. And it's just a good way to help make sure that the pieces that you cut and made have not moved. I went ahead and did the next step, which is the placement stitch for the ears, which were right here and right here. So you're going to want to take your ears and you're going to kind of do like a J configuration on both sides. Kind of like this at an angle. And you're going to do the same for the other side. And then you're going to want to tape them down so that way they don't move. And then your next step is to do a tack down stitch to make sure they're nice and secure. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my ears tacked down to my hoop, and for the next step you're going to want your painter's tape again, because you want to tape your ears in like this. You want to fold them in, and you're going to want to tape them down, because for your next and final stitch step you're going to be placing your last piece of fabric, which is fabric fabric H, over the entire project piece. And your last step in your stitching is going to be a tack down stitch, which it's going to take your back piece of fabric and it's going to connect it to the rest of your project. Okay, so I'm going to do that and then I'll be right back. Okay, so the final stitch is done on your machine, and it did the tack down stitch of your last piece of fabric, and it basically sandwiched all your pieces together, and it left this little opening right here for you to be able to flip the dog right side out. So what the next step is going to be is I'm going to remove the hoop from my machine, remove everything from the hoop, and I'm going to remove my stabilizer, and I'm going to cut all the way around the outline of the dog and remove all the excess fabric, and then I'm going to flip him right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I trimmed off all my excess fabric. I removed the stabilizer, and when trimming by the opening here I made sure and left a little tab so when I tuck it in and sew I have some fabric to work with. Okay, so now that we've trimmed it, I'm going to go ahead and turn him right side out and I will be right back. Okay, so here we have him. Isn't he awesome? Okay, so the next part I'm going to show you is how to basically stuff the head. We're going to leave the body flat though. So we're just going to stuff the head. Once I'm done stuffing, I'm going to take some of my sewing pins and right about where I'm done stuffing him, which is going to be right above his collar line where the body meets the head, you're going to place a couple of these sewing pins right there and right there, because then we're going to take him over to the sewing machine and you're just going to sew a line going straight across, and that's going to keep the stuffing that you put inside the head inside his head. And the rest we're going to keep him flat, and then I'm going to do a ladder stitch right here to sew him close. Okay, so I'm going to do all those steps and I'll be right back, and when I come back I should have a complete dog, and so should you. So remember, we're going to, from this little opening, we're going to take the stuffing and we're going to put it just inside his head, and then from there we're going to take our sewing pins and we're going to pin that opening closed, and then we're going to go to our sewing machine and do a straight stitch line straight across, and then we're going to ladder stitch him closed, and we're going to have a finished dog. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay guys, here we go. We are all done. The head is nice and stuffed, and it depends on you how much you want to stuff it, or you know, put a little bit in. Me, I did about medium stuffing, so that way he's still nice and soft. And when I did the sewing, I actually just followed the line that was already there, so it hid my stitching on this side for, you know, following the line that was already there to hold the stuffing in. And then we have the body, and I did my ladder stitch right here. And these are honestly really customizable. I mean, you've got all the space right here. You can put a name, you can pretty much do anything, put a little monogram or something. These guys are very customizable and very easy to work with. And as you can see, the design was really easy to follow. I hope this tutorial helped you in making your very own Flatty dog. So thank you very much for following, and have a great day.